Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Right Path Podcast, where being an author, an actual author, still matters. This is the podcast that's for authors, it's about authors, it's done by an author. Folks, this is where we share our journeys, where we explore our creativity, and examine the why behind it all. Our guest today is all about that and is already just on fire. So I cannot wait to unleash this gentleman on you folks. He has brought it with him today. Please welcome to the show. He is the author of, and this is all you need to hear. He's the author of The Great Slapping, The Power of Mentorship. Please welcome to the show, Yogi Mueller. How you doing, brother?
Rory, I'm doing great, brother. Thank you very much for that introduction. I appreciate it much. I'm
Love
on
it.
fire, man. Let's do it.
Yep, tell you what, since moment one. No, I tell you what, we do have to let everybody know, just in fairness, so they know what to expect. This gentleman is a former professional comedian. And he has just been firing them off since we started the call. So, I mean, I don't know what we're going to get today. And I'm going to put the disclaimer out there right now. Just roll with the flow. I don't know what to tell you because the guy is on fire. Yogi, I tell you what, man, I want to hear all about the book. I want to hear about your program. You're the founder of Craft Leadership. I want to hear about all that stuff. But more than any of that, I want to hear about Yogi Mueller. You know, like who is the guy behind the great slapping?
So I'm a guy that up until I was probably 30 didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was a professional comedian. I was a musical comedian. So we played comedy festivals all over the upper Midwest, several places in Chicago. Was on the Dr. Demento show for those of you that are
Uh,
old enough to remember him
oh, yeah.
where Weird Al Yankovic got his start. And it wasn't until I settled down and realized that I do have a passion for people. I always thought it was an audience, but it was more than an audience. It was more of, I found a quote that I often tell people changed my life, Rory, and it was, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's happiness is planting a seed of a tree whose shade you will never enjoy. And I'm like, damn, that did it for me. And that started my career of whether it was in hospitality or Disney or teaching in a university. It was at the seminal moment that why part, as Simon Sinek said, was about making people better than you found them because of your investment in them.
Nice. Nice. All right. So this is who Yogi is behind the scenes, right? Now, this is your first book, which congratulations.
Thank you
It's
very much.
fantastic
Thank you.
that you've been a published author now. There is so much to the craft leadership program and the story behind the book. Did the book come first and then the leadership, craft leadership, or did you form craft leadership and then wrote a book about it?
Form of craft leadership first. It's a funny story. The book was I like to tell people I was with an organization for 13 years and then we got bought out. And then I was then freed up to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams. And as I'm sitting there twiddling my entrepreneurial thumbs, I'm like, well, I need to do something productive. And I may have one or two books sitting on my hard drive for the past 10 years that I did nothing with, but I'm like, I need to do something new. And so I sat down and just started making notes of people that have impacted my life, that have changed my life, have slapped me, and that's where that came from, like some really hard feedback. And then it turned into looking at the mentees that I've had the pleasure and the honor of serving, and it just came out from there. So it was originally a catharsis for me to not feel like I'm sitting on the couch and eating bonbons while I'm collecting my severance pay and wanted to do something productive. But it turned into something real, and it turned into something that has impacted a lot of people, and I'm very proud of that.
That's fantastic. With the craft leadership coaching
Mhm.
that you do, who is it that you're actually targeting with that? Who do you work with and how?
So I like saying that I work with individuals and leaders that are forward thinking, but know and want to grow, but know that either their talent or their organization's talent is not going to get them there. So whether that's an organizational work, laying out a talent ecosystem and a foundation for them to grow upon, or for helping individuals unlock their potential, and through a process of embracing the grit and kind of what I call sandpaper learning, no fluff, and helping them truly see the potential that they're either unwilling or unable to find.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, we've mentioned it, so I mean, now we got to find out what's the story with the grit.
So the grit comes from this style that I've always had, where I ask tough questions for people, and I've, the great slappings that I received, I responded well to them after, the initial ouch and kind of rubbing and feeling sorry for yourself, and then realizing, well, there was clarity that was provided as well as the pain. So I have a kind of a no fluff approach when it comes to helping you see new perspectives and new um, angles in how you view things. And grit, with all deference to Dr. Duckworth and her work on grit, my grit is an acronym, and it's all about how you are able to receive feedback and what do you do with it. So it stands for get over yourself, reassess with honesty, invest in improvement, and treasure the growth.
Hmm.
Get over yourself is all ego. Reassess with honesty is all ego. That's how you receive feedback. That's where your amygdala puts up the walls. And then the invest in the treasure have to do with, well, what are you going to do with the knowledge that you have? If you watched a cartoon in the 80s growing up, knowledge is half the battle, according to G.I. Joe. Well, the other half is doing something about it.
GI Joe. Now I like
Yeah,
this. All
yo,
right.
Joe, bro. That's
Go
what
Joe,
we did
indeed.
when we got home from school. We watched G.I. Joe.
We are having such a Gen X moment on here, folks. I'm sorry, but you have to keep up with us. Luckily, a big chunk of our audience is Gen Xers, so they're all
Good, good.
getting these references as well. But I really appreciate that. So you're doing this. You've got the mentorship program. At what point does the book come in? I'm a little curious.
The book is, again, it really was a catharsis to first and foremost,
Hmm.
and then I wrote it. As I'm writing it, I'm realizing the gratitude that I have for my mentors and my mentees. But as I was writing it too, Rory, I almost felt that it's a call to action, because I do see mentorship being ripped at the fabric a little bit. One of the things I preach in the book is that the great slapping and having that critical feedback and finding somebody that's willing to tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear, which it sometimes is painful and rough and frustrating. But I see, and I'm speaking in generalities here, but I see a level of sensitivity around that, where people see critical feedback as an attack, and they shut it down, like, well, you're disrespecting me by giving me critical feedback. Or people are afraid to give you feedback because they're not you don't know how you're going to respond to it. Are you
Right.
going to jump down their throat because they suggest something? And so that's one thing. I see a technological divide between those that are experienced and those that are up and coming, and there tends to be a lack of patience, a lack of understanding of where somebody else is coming from, and a lack of willingness to put in the effort to learn how to communicate best with the other. And so all of that is ripping at it. And then you have AI that comes into, which is probably when I relaunch it with the second edition, there's going to be a whole big chapter on AI. And my point around AI is you can ask it anything, and it's going to tell you. And it's going to tell you you're the most brilliant person in the world. I don't know if you notice that when it comes to AI, they think you're the smartest person in the world. But the problem with this is when you find a human mentor, Rory, they're investing in you because they believe in you and they believe that investment's going to pay off. AI will say anything you want it to say because the ones and the zeros told it to do so, not because it has any belief in you. I think that's a huge differentiator. Mentors are not satisfied with where you are today because they can see what you can be tomorrow. AI can't get past the prompt.
Right. I can see this. Unfortunately, I can see where you're going with this, at least to a degree. We're all about needing that affirmation. We're all about the likes and the loves and, the forwards of our posts and
Mhm.
everything else in the comments, right? And we all want everybody to tell us how great we are. And then you're right. Chat shows up and starts telling you every 5 seconds how great you are. And, oh, that was a great job. Oh, that was a wonderful thought. Hey, I'm really glad you did this. So we are constantly getting that. Um, People who are looking for mentorship, though, aren't they looking a little bit deeper? Or is this sort of, they want the mentorship, but they can't take it?
Well, I think you're absolutely onto something there, and I talk about companies that start mentorship programs that often fail. In fact, I think if I remember the last figure I saw, like 60% of all mentorship programs fail
Hmm.
in an organization. And I think it's from what you were hinting at is there is a lot of emotional baggage behind mentorship. And when you point at somebody and say you're a mentor or you're a mentee, I don't think you can do that. I think you need to you that is something that grows into that. It starts as a coaching relationship. It starts as more of that, developing that relationship. I say, when it comes to mentorship, you have to have trust and you have to have willingness. If you don't have either one of those in the relationship, you can't have a true mentorship relationship.
Okay.
And people want it, but when they really kind of break it down, it might terrify them, or they don't understand what it means or how to operate within that sphere. So hopefully some of the things in the book will kind of walk through that and help make it a comfortable transition for you and help you identify. I had a lot of people read the book and they said, I had no idea I had mentors. But after I read your book, I understand what that looks like. And I had great mentors in my life. Just because I didn't call it mentorship doesn't mean it didn't exist. So I was very happy about that they found a part of their life that they never realized they had.
Yeah, I mean that actually says a whole lot about the state of things. If you don't even know you're being mentored, that's interesting. Um, I love it. Let me back up for a second
Yeah.
because I definitely want to get into the rest of this stuff. But um, what makes somebody, who has been a former professional comedian, right? What makes somebody who's enjoying life say, "I want to be a mentor. I'm going to put myself through this. This is what I want to do: is help other people try to get better, so that they can tell me they don't want to hear what I have to say."
So it's not like a Don King story where I was visited by an angel in the middle of the night that told me to grow my hair a certain way, right?
Okay.
I will tell you the origins of this is pretty self-centered and self-serving. Um, when I joined Disney, I went into HR really for the first time, and I didn't even know training and development and learning was like a legit career at that time. Got a degree in public relations, and I was asked to do some facilitation, get up in front of a group of people, and the entertainer in me was like, "Holy crap! I have a captive audience for an hour and a half," and I just entertained. But when you're a comedian, you need that laughter to kind of keeping you going and keep you fueled, right? And as a musician too, you always look for that applause and that laughter. But I was seeing aha moments. I was seeing people go, "Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about this. I didn't know that about myself." And that, nobody's ever asked me that question before, but I think there was a little bit of synapses tied to the joy that I got from getting laughter from the audience, then getting that aha moment. And the fact that I could do both was at that moment, thank you for taking me down that introspective trail. But I always tell people, yeah, I like I was a I had a captive audience as a comedian. That was great. Which a couple of times I have to be reminded, well, this is a professional world, and you just got to watch your language a little time. So there was some pulling back that didn't need to happen with there. But yeah, there is some intrinsic connection between the making somebody laugh and forget their troubles, and also somebody realize their full potential. We might be onto something there, Rory.
That's awesome. Every once in a while, we have a good thought here on the program. We try, but it's your story though. That's the amazing part. The
Wow.
You seem to be a very good fit for it. You seem to be incredibly comfortable with the career choice too. So I figured there was something that was incredibly gratifying about it for you, and maybe that's why you come across as authentic as you do, is because you actually do love it, which is really neat.
I do. I'm back in the college classroom this semester for the first time as a professor since I dabbled in academics for a while, and then I'm back, and I tell you it's the best feeling in the world just to be in that position again and to have 16 pairs of eyes look at you like, okay, I might actually learn something from this guy, and then know that you're making a difference potentially in that room. So no, it's good to be reminded of my roots in that in just helping be a catalyst for people.
Excellent. Excellent. So, craft leadership, and when you're doing your mentorship,
Mhm.
you are working primarily with businesses, then it sounds like, as
Yeah,
opposed to one-on-one.
Both actually. So what
Oh,
happens is either I'm contacted by an organization which might need organizational teamwork kind of at that level, or they say, "Hey, I have a leader that's struggling. I have a leader that I need to elevate. I need the leader that's hit a ceiling for various reasons." Or individuals will can contact me and work through all whatever they need to work through at that time. And again, the first thing I do, regardless if I work with an organization or individual, is I give them that grit index assessment. If you're a CEO and you say, "Hey, I have an EVP that needs some help," my first question is, well, what's their level of self-awareness? Because I need to ascertain what walls do I need to tear down before I can actually get to where the work meets the road. And that's where I talk about that sandpaper, because to put the final coat on a good piece of furniture, what's the last thing you do is you rough it up with some sandpaper. And so
yeah,
I want to make sure that they are going to be able to take the grit that's required to get into where we need them to be.
interesting. All right, got it. As you're dealing with people who can't take the grit, I'm curious, does that sort of play along generational lines or male-female lines, anything like that? Is there any sort of stereotypical person who, can handle it better and people who can't handle it very well at all?
I don't know if there's any specific demo lines that are drawn there, but great question. What I do see, especially in the results of the index, is the past has a lot to do with it. Their environment, their level of um, interaction with people, the level of trust that they've had in leaders, the level of trust that they've had in themselves, and that they're almost conditioned. I don't think anybody grows up immediately from nature being self-defensive and walls go up. I think that all comes from either a parental environment, early business career, feedback that they got where they had a great slapping, but didn't, maybe it wasn't delivered with genuine interest in building up, but it was delivered to tear somebody down, which we have leaders like that. We know that. And I think I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of that defensiveness, that inability to invest in themselves because of their past experiences.
Wow.
And even though my assessment is not rooted in any massive psychological study, it's based on my experience working with thousands of leaders and individuals. It turns out to be pretty accurate. And the questions that we can ask, we can uncover some of the things that might be holding them back with that ability to receive and do something with feedback.
I'm really glad you added that last part. That was the question that was rolling through my head while you were giving me that answer was, is that something that you have to then work through? Or do you just say, hey, this person really isn't open to this, so, that's it. We're not going to work with them. You actually work through these
Oh yeah.
blockades and
Oh
these
yeah. Oh yeah.
resistance issues.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's an opportunity, it's a challenge. Selfishly, I like the challenge of if I've got somebody stuck, I've been told I ask great questions. And I I never thought about that, or their perspective, and really helping them see where some of these things are. Because I think I say in the book, the most horrible thing that we can do as human beings is leave potential unrealized. And I said, no matter who you're talking to, whether it's a student or you don't know what this person's capable of. You don't know if this person is going to be the next president of the United States or cure cancer or be, you don't know. And the things that I've uncovered, both in terms of the index and in terms of being an educator, both in the corporate world and in the academic world, and I taught middle school up through grad school. One misguided statement from somebody that they trust, a teacher, a parent, can shut them down, can absolutely rip them of their confidence. It can rip them of their desire to be better than they are right now. And that's a crime. That's a crime. And if I can do anything to help unlock that, to have that person reach their full potential, I've planted that seed, and I've done what I was put on this earth to do.
I love it. I'm glad you brought up that the volatility, part of it where it can the apple cart can be upset, type of thing. With this, you bring up things like in your bio, mentorship with teeth. You talk about, I mean, the name of the book is The Great Slapping, right? And so this seems like a very powerful, almost maybe raw sometimes,
Mhm.
sort of mentorship, coaching. How do you balance that with this not wanting to be coached, type of thing we were just talking about, where people can't handle the criticism, but then you're coming out with, again, mentorship with teeth. There's got to be a balancing act in there somewhere.
So I have to laugh. I had a podcast, and the first question that was asked by the host was, "So where do you get off with this violent title of your book?" Like, wow, you're not wrong, but I did say I don't advocate slapping anybody physically, no matter how much they deserve it, right?
Wow.
Um, the you have to get there, and I think you were talking about balance, and I think that's the key. When you say that the two things that are absolutely seminal and required in a mentorship relationship, productive mentorship relationship, is that willingness that I'm willing to give you, I'm willing to mentor you, but then you also have to be willing to be mentored, and all that it comes in. And I say, mentors should give no more than 59% or 49%. Mentees always have to give at least 51% in a relationship. The mentee has to want that mentorship. I would prefer a 60-40-70-30, but mentors should never be chasing their mentees, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And the second thing is the trust, that there has to be trust that the information that you're getting is genuinely there, to quote Dale Carnegie, genuinely there because you want to invest and uplift the other person.
Hmm.
And the mentee genuinely understands that and accepts that feedback and does something with it. If there's an imbalance of any of that, then that's when it falls apart. And so when you're having these tough conversations, and you need to get to that rough part, because again, sometimes people are very unwilling or unable to really see their full potential. You got to chisel away at it. And when it's balanced with that reinforcement that, look, I'm investing in you because I know it pays off. I'm investing in you because you're better. You can be better. You can do more. You can be more. And that constant balance, so it doesn't feel like you're just getting beaten around the head,
Hmm.
right? Which it could easily happen if you don't show that other side of why you're sharing that feedback.
Okay, gotcha. Um, I'm curious if this particular mentorship, especially the way you're describing it with this balance and
Mhm.
so on, if this is any sort of application for, parenting difficulties or maybe relationships with fathers and sons, that type of thing.
I say very much in my book that mentors play a very specific role, and there's fine lines in a lot of areas in terms of where that relationship can go. And I just like parenting, like you said, in my book, and again, I'm not Dr. Spock. I don't have a psychological degree. I'm not an expert in child rearing, even though I have two amazing daughters that are just awesome in their fields. Um, is that you really shouldn't be friends with your kids. And I think from a mentorship perspective, you can be friends with your mentees. And I have mentees that are great friends, but we also have the ability to flip a switch, which means if we're talking about something and then something comes up that I need to put the mentor hat on, it's understood that I'm playing that role. And it's understood that, we're going to get into some tough subjects, and the respect is there for that. And there's no resentment. So I think you can, but you have to be very clear, because as a mentor, if you start crossing these lines, and I cover a lot of them in the book, trying to solve all their problems, trying to be their parent, to be their, their confidant. I mean, you have to be very careful with those lines, because people can misread them and erode your effectiveness as a mentor.
Appreciate you fielding that question. I know that kind of came out of left field, but
No,
you're a
rock
great
and roll.
sport. You're just like taking any and all questions. It's perfect. So
Bring it.
let me also tell you that if somebody thought The Great Slapping was a violent title, you were probably on the wrong podcast. It was time to
I
time
think
to.
I think he was out of Indonesia. Maybe there might have been some lost in translation things, but we got to the good parts.
I was going to say Gen X. The Great Slapping. That's we don't even think twice about that. I mean,
Well, see, I was raised in an Italian household, so the polenta paddle was a serious thing. Now, I remember once my mom, God rest her soul, got really mad at me one time because she took the wooden spoon to me and she broke it over my rear end and then was pissed that she broke her best wooden spoon. So then she moved to the polenta paddle, which
Yeah.
is a lot thicker
Oh,
and
yeah.
more sturdy, right? Um, no, look, I am who I am today because of those experiences, and I love it, and I appreciate all of them, and I can laugh about them now. So and maybe it is a Gen X thing, free range parenting, just be out in the street until 10 o'clock at night and then come home. And when I got to laugh though, there's a video that's floating around right now, Roy, that the parents are playing old newscasts for their kids. Remember all the 10 p.m. newscasts would say, "Do
Oh,
you
yeah.
know where your children are?" And they go, "Seriously? They had to remind you to go find your check where your kids are?" I'm like, "Yep, that's how we were raised."
Pretty much. Yeah. If they're not home yet, you might want to go, oh, yeah, where is Billy?
I
That's great.
thought it was been kind of quiet around here.
Yes. Well, now that I found out you're raised, in an Italian family, goodness gracious. Now I understand why we have so much in common right now. All right. All right. Well, we're going to get past the Italian thing and the
Yes.
Gen X thing. As cathartic as it was putting the book together, the process of doing your first book, taking this all and going and finding a publisher. Um, when we start that process, all of us have this image in our minds. For some of us, we're like, holding the book or we're holding the award, we've got a bag of money, whatever it is. But the way we picture it at the beginning is nowhere near the way it looks at the end of the process. What was that like for you, and what were some of your biggest surprises and along the way?
I was extremely blessed, Rory, for writing this book. The way it happened. And that my forward is by a gentleman by the name of Kevin McCarthy. And when I was thrusted into the consultancy world on its kicking and screaming, I joined an organization here in Orlando called the Greater Orlando Organizational Development Network, and they had a mentoring program. And I'm like, great, I'm a new consultant, and I got matched up with Kevin, who had been a consultant for 30 years. And I'm like, this is great. He's going to help me kind of get things organized. And I said, I'm writing a book. He says, well, do you know I launched or released 6 books? I'm like, no. So Kevin became my mentor in writing a mentorship book. And then about October of last year, I connected with a gentleman that I worked at Disney 25 years ago. And evidently, this happens sometimes. He goes, do you realize, you helped me through some serious things. You were a great mentor to me. And I'm like, no idea. I'm like flattered. I'm honored. And I said, I'm writing a book. He says, well, did you know I used to own a publishing company? I'd be willing to edit your book for you. So in my book on mentorship, I had a mentor to help me write it and walk me through that process, and a mentor to help me edit and publish. I could not have been more blessed
Nice.
on that. Um, the hardest thing I think I had to do was put pen to paper. And I know that is what you probably hear from all your authors is that first regurgitation of stuff down on paper. People have it in their mind, but that transfer through the pen or the keyboard, whatever it is always the toughest.
Sure.
And what I did, and I sat in a chair, and I took my voice recorder out on my phone, and I just vomited into the phone. Every story that I could think of, every mentor experience that I've ever had in my life. And then what I did is I actually leveraged our good friends A and I threw this 5 pages of raw text in there, and I said, help me figure this out. And it gave me an outline. And that was, in the 2 books that I wrote previously that I have not published, writer's block was a thing. Not anymore. Because you have somebody that can really help you out. So I am not an advocate for having it write it for you. I will never be that. I will be a hopeless romantic and will always hold on to the human input there. But the human mind can also be a roadblock. And having something to help you unpack all that crap you have up there is also another positive thing too. And the best advice I ever got from a mentor was don't ever write a book for the money.
Wonderful. That is great advice.
It's
That'll
great of
that'll
so
keep
when
you
you were
sane.
talking about holding bags of money, I'm like, yeah, not
Oh my goodness, not this time. No, I can appreciate that, and it's I'm sure it's good for everybody out there to hear that you practice what you preach. In terms of seeking out mentors yourself. So, yeah,
That's huge. You know, if you can't be open to feedback and understand you're not the smartest person in the room, you're probably not a good mentor.
yeah. Amen.
I'll
Absolutely.
I'll make that call.
Right on. So, as now, when you went to, you get it all done, you got the editors helping you out, so on and so forth. Did you shop publishers? Did you go hybrid? Did you self-publish? How'd you pull it
I,
together?
I did self-publish. Luckily, my editor has had journeys of both the self-publishing and the other worlds out there, and he's like, for your first book, let's go small barriers to entry, and let's do self-publish. So I went the KDP Ingram route, and you know it's been great. You know, I didn't have to buy 4,000 books to cloud my
Right.
garage for the next 6 years, right? And you know, I designed the cover myself. He formatted everything. He edited for. I mean, again, blessed beyond measure. Which, from a cost perspective, I was very lucky there. The next books, I will tell you, one of the things that I didn't expect, Roy, was post launch or pre and post launch marketing,
Ah,
and trying to maintain the brand and the theme of that. And I think I did a lot of that. I think the next couple books I might look to some other sources to help me with that because it is time consuming
yeah,
and it took a lot away from my other this business here. And again, when you look at the Pareto principle, where 80% of your time is spent on something, 20% that's bringing in less income than 20%,
right.
you're out of balance there. So
Yeah,
I think I'm, but great learning, cathartic experience. Learned so much about myself in that process, and just being open to feedback. And like you said, live practicing what I preach.
I love it.
And that.
Whenever we sit down to write a book, we all kind of have a process, I think. And if
Mhm.
we don't have one, then we develop one pretty quickly. What was yours?
Hunt and peck, not on a keyboard, but in the process. So I read On Writing by Stephen King, by the way,
Mhm.
which was one of my original impetuses for wanting to write. That was a fantastic book. I tried the scheduling thing. I tried, every day at 7 o'clock, I'm going to sit in front of the computer, and there would be many mornings that I stared at a blank screen. And I'm realized I'm not a schedule guy. I'm a little more organic.
Yeah,
So what I would write when I was inspired. Now that might be 7 hours in front of a computer. It might be 7 minutes, and 7 days might go by before I add another paragraph. But to me, that worked best. Is eat when you're hungry, write when you're inspired, and not try to force it out.
no, that's a great, great analogy. When you're hungry, yeah, exactly. Right when you have something to write about. Um, gotcha, gotcha. When we're writing our books, most of us, as we're going through this, we have sort of in our mind's eye, we have someone that we are, someone, something that we're writing the book to, or we're writing the book for. Who's that for you?
I'm looking at my next books that I'm working on right now more in the eyes of the audience that I'm writing for. But the first book, it was more of that personal journey for me.
Yeah.
It was more because and people say, well, write for your audience, not for you. The first book was me. And in that I found an audience. And what some of the best compliments I've been paid is I can hear this book in your voice, like you're talking to me. So I know it's a very authentic voice that I'm speaking with. And the call to action was not an immediate thing. That came as I was closing it out and figuring out, okay, well, what do I want the people to do with the information that they got here? I just don't want to sit there and have them just read about my story. How is it impactful to them? How is it impactful to their business? If they're a leader, things like that.
Nice, nice. If I mean, I guess, do you consider the book now to be a success? And if so, great. If not, what has to happen in your mind for this book to be considered a success to you?
Well, for me, it's the messaging, right? And the more I can get the message out about the importance of mentorship, the fact that we should be seeking it out. And if you are somebody that got to where you are because of the help of somebody else, then you need to seek out being a mentor. We need to continue this pass down of information, this investment in other generations. And I know, Roy, I don't know if you saw the headline just this week or last week that Gen Z is now dumber. The first generation in the history that they recorded this is dumber than the previous generation. Previously, every generation got smarter because of COVID and technology and all these things. We have documented scientific data that says our younger generation is not progressing beyond the millennials. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. And we have the power in our interactions, the things we say, to lift people up or tear them down, and find those opportunities to invest in others to help them unlock their potential.
Nice. So you're trying to encourage people to not only
I am.
seek out mentorship, but to become mentors.
Oh, 100%.
That's
It
wonderful.
is an enriching experience beyond all measure. And so to ask, what is the goal of the book? Yes, I wanted to reach those individuals, but hey, look, get me on a stage in front of a group of people. I've got the gift of inspiration. Hopefully, I'll light some fires
Nice.
within people.
Nice. All right. You mentioned the book in your voice, and then of course that made me say, "Oh, have you done an audiobook yet?" Because that would be a great thing for you to do in your voice
It
too.
it's on my calendar. It's on my calendar. I just got it blocked, and I think my editor says it's probably going to take 8 hours of solid time without interruption. All right,
That
just got
is
to
how you want
find
to
it.
do
But
it.
yeah, it's 2026 is my goal for that the audiobook to come out.
That's great advice because that is how you want to do your audiobook for sure.
I'm thinking about doing it in ASMR. Like, go get that to her. You can do it. I'm so proud
Oh boy. All right. Now, one of the things that you offer folks is a free leadership self-assessment.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
they can take the Grit Index assessment. It's a brief survey to in really digs into your ability to accept and do something with feedback. They can go to craftleadership.net, and the link to the Grit Index assessment is there. You can also go to my LinkedIn page, Yogi Mueller, Mueller, and the link to there is as well.
Perfect. Now, if I do this free leadership self-assessment, um, what exactly am I assessing?
So you will get a score. You will get a Grit Index score, which
Okay.
gives you an overall take at how you are with feedback. And then it breaks it down into each individual category, the G.R.I.T. And with that, you get a sit down with me for 30 minutes. We'll take a look at the results. And as you say, we'll kind of lay out a potential path of working through some of those things. So they would be open and honest with themselves at all other upcoming opportunities that they have in their life. Let's get over the hump so you can be the best you can be.
Excellent. Excellent. I want to take a quick step back because you mentioned the marketing, that needs to happen,
Mhm.
especially pre-launch and post-launch of the book.
Mhm.
When we self-publish, we have to do all of our own marketing. Nobody's helping us
You
with it.
do. Yeah.
Or else you got to hire somebody, which is not cheap. So,
I've been wanting
um,
to fire my chief marketing officer since I launched the book.
that's right. I hear you. I do hear you. Well, then let me ask the chief marketing officer. What has worked for you, if anything, and what has not worked for you at all, if anything?
So I did a campaign of memes for the book, and which funny memes. They weren't serious. They were tongue in cheek. Like one of my favorites is the scene from The Shining where Shelley Duvall is curled up against the wall because Jack's coming through the door with an axe, but it's the book, not the axe. Things like that and I think that speaks to who I am, that I can be serious and talk about serious things, but there is this understanding that, hey, I like to have fun too, and that yes, I'm going to be tough with you, but understand it's for the right reason and not just to be mean. So, I think that was successful. I did that for a long time, but you had to create all those memes, and like that just sucks up time. And there is a direct correlation between the amount of marketing you're doing and the sales. So if you are somebody that I've learned to check your sales report is like checking your scale every day, not always giving you the best information. You know,
Right.
and or your stock market. You know, you don't want to check that every day because the swings are huge, right?
Right.
And look at it over time. So you know, there's a lot of newbie stuff I had to work out, and that was one of them. But you know, marketing is important, and if you want to sustain, you got to sustain your marketing as well, and make sure your message continues to be out there. So
Nice.
I actually created a newsletter called the Daily Slap, and it comes out twice a week, and which is ironic. And it's got about right now 1,200 subscribers. So I'm looking to grow that as a vehicle to maintain these tough, no fluff headlines that really dig to the heart of matter. And if people are willing to see it, then they can use it and be better.
That's awesome. So a couple of things that have been working out for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's
Excellent.
always more. Could be more. Always could be more. But
Excellent.
yes, having a blast.
I love that. Anything in particular that you tried that just really wasn't your cup of tea?
Not yet. Not yet. I don't think there's anything that I stopped because of a negative ROI
Yeah.
or a zero ROI.
Excellent.
A lot of the things that I have not continued to engage in time and is trying to figure out that how to fit all that great marketing into everything else I got going on.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
it's a commitment. When you make a commitment to self publish, self would be the key word on
Right.
that.
Right on. Sounds like your chief marketing officer needs a raise. I mean, if that's
Oh
the case.
God, he's he's 2 minutes from the unemployment line, is what he is, right?
I gotcha. Oh my goodness. I love it. All right. As we kind of bring this down and wrap this up here a little bit, I've had a great time talking to you
It was
and
a
getting the
blast.
word
Thank you.
out. The before I ask you my final question, let me make sure that everybody knows kind of how to get a hold of the book, how to get a hold of you, how they can reach you, find out more about the program. We will definitely have a link for the self-assessment. We'll have that in
Yep.
our show notes. Anything else you give me, I'll put in the show notes. But give everybody, how to reach you right now.
The book can find on Amazon.com. All your and the ebook is available on all your outlets online. The website again is craftleadership.net. If you're looking for more information on the Grit Index assessment, maybe having me come out to speak to your organization, to work with your organization, or with you individually, it's got information on there how to get a hold of me. And you can also find me on YouTube. I have a craft leadership channel on YouTube, and I got about 46 what I call leadership nuggets that are little bite-sized leadership thoughts. Often, again, tough, no fluff, really getting into the meat of things. So feel free to use those as inspiration for you or your team.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. I love what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to checking it out myself. So, as we kind of bring this to a close, let me ask you my final question. We have a ton of aspiring authors who listen to this program, and we have actual authors, who have written books too, and are always looking for, a better way to do the next book. So, as you have gone through the process of creating the book, self-publishing and whatnot, what is your best piece of advice out there for folks who are trying to get their first book published? And there's not quite where you are yet.
I go back to the best piece of feedback was don't write a book for the money. That's the first one. And the second thing and let me tell you, I have aspiring office coming out of the woodwork to talk to me and ask me questions about that same thing. And everybody has a story, and they're like, well, who wants to hear me? Who wants to read my book? Well, it's because you have a unique story and nobody can tell it the way you can. Nobody has your experience. Nobody has your stories. And so that would be unique. Um, and the hardest thing again is putting pen to paper. Once you open that spigot, it's going to be very easy. But find somebody to help you kick you in the rear end, get you slapping, so you can sit down with a pad of paper, your phone, your voice to notes on your phone or a keyboard, and get your story started. That's how you're going to get there. One step at a time, but you got to take that first step.
Great advice, brother. I love that. All right. I absolutely love it. Folks, founder of the Craft Leadership Program and author of The Great Slapping, The Power of Mentorship, Yogi Mueller. Yogi, thank you so much for being on the show today, sharing everything that you did, and telling everybody about your book. Folks, go get it. I appreciate you, brother. I'm glad you were here.
Absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Folks, that's been another just awesome episode of the Right Path Podcast, where the truth still matters and words still have power. This is the place for authors who know that every page is a step forward towards finding the right path.